All right, good morning, everyone. It is 11:30, which is our meeting start time. We're still waiting for a few more committee members to arrive, but while we wait to get quorum, I'll go ahead and go through our preamble. So this is the September 4th, 2025 meeting of the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee. Our virtual meeting regulations and procedures. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the start of any presentation. The recused committee member will then leave the meeting for the duration of the case discussion. The chair will call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call of the committee. The administrator will introduce the first project. The meeting will then be turned over to the applicant to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the committee. Once the presentation is concluded, the administrator will provide any background information and will read any received public comment when applicable. The committee will then begin deliberations and project review. If you'd like to speak, please use the raised hand feature. After deliberations and review concludes, the committee will render its recommendation and/or motion. The applicant may leave the meeting after their project review is complete. All projects will follow the same format until all projects are heard by the committee. Once all projects are heard, the chair will call for any committee/administrator reports, and after all reports have been heard, the chair will adjourn the meeting. Regarding community comments, any and all community members may provide their written comments, thoughts, or questions regarding projects presented to the committee. Community members may also telephone their comments or questions to the committee administrator. All comments, thoughts, or questions must be submitted to the committee administrator no later than 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Public comment received after the deadline will not be heard by the committee. Public comment will be collected by Landmark staff and sent to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Landmark staff will summarize the received comments during the meeting. The applicant of the project is under no obligation to answer any community questions. Community members are invited to attend the Design Review Advisory Committee meetings, but there will be no open public comment period. Regarding design review guidelines, all projects are being reviewed using the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation and are being considered for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. All projects are considered on a case-by-case basis. Presentations were received and distributed to committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Changes to the presentation after confirmation of receipt by Landmark staff are not shown here today. The Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee makes recommendations to the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. These recommendations are not final actions. Depending on the scope of the project, submissions may be approved administratively or will need to be reviewed by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. The project will be scheduled at the next available commission meeting after an action is taken, if that's the case. Reference the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. They are up here on the screen. As always, if anyone would like me to refer back to this slide at any point during any of the discussions, please just let me know. So with that, is Nia here? Are you one of the call-in users?
Dina's on.
Yes, Dina is here.
No, I was looking for Nia Marinucci. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
Dan, she just emailed to say she's running like 5 minutes late.
Okay, sorry. Margaret, do you mind stepping in as chair? I'm not sure that we'll have quorum until she gets here, but I guess we'll see where we're at. And, we can always get started, and then once she gets here, wait on any motions till then. So.
Okay. So I guess I'll call the September 4th design review meeting of the Ohio City Board to order. And Dan, if you'll real slowly call the roll so we can get quorum.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Flaherty? Mr. Frondorf? Ms. Land?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Persons, Mr. Trevisano,
Here.
and Ms. Mernucci. Madam Chair, it looks like we are one shy of quorum, but I would recommend that we go ahead and hear the first case with the hope that Nia or someone else shows up before the end of the case, so that we can still have quorum and make a motion at that point. So our first
Sounds
case
good.
is case HOC 25-38 at 5600 Lorraine Avenue for a mural. This is it's a building you guys saw the renovation of, previously approved as case for the HOC 25-15 or landmarks case 25-019. So we've got Stina and Sarah here to walk us through the presentation. You guys just want to let me know when you'd like me to advance through the slides. I'm happy to do so.
Okay, perfect. My name is Dina Alea. I am a professional muralist here in the greater Cleveland area and surrounding areas. And I was hired by Sarah to create murals that really encompass what Partnership for Good Health was about. And I know that they did a previous presentation for the renovations. And so Partnership for Good Health helps community members, non-English speaking community members navigate the health system. So we wanted to create a mural that really represented the diversity and inclusivity of Partnership for Good Health, that kind of flowed with the welcome theme that they are welcome to all members of the community. And we also have a secondary mural going on, I believe, the other wall that will be facing their community garden, and that is to honor John Lewis and his activism in the civil rights. Just to bring some really like pride to that corner and brighten it up a bit and just make a backdrop that's really inclusive for the community. Sorry, that was also kind of the introduction, so we can go unless Sarah would like to say anything. So this is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had a problem with my microphone, but no, Stina, you said it all perfectly, so I didn't have anything to add. Thank you.
So these are the wall views of the building prior to Sarah having it repainted, and it is currently going through internal renovations as well. So if you go to the next screen, the next slide, oh, there's one missing. There were some street views. I don't think this is the most updated one, but there are street views too of the older building. And then, so the next slide that you saw with the yellow is what this wall looks like now after it was updated. So although this building is going through some renovations, the wall on the left would be the one that serves as the welcome backdrop for just kind of encompassing what PGH is about. And then the one on the right is the one that will be facing more of the enclosed community garden type of vibe that they have going on. And that will be the John Lewis with a quote, a very popular quote from him on that wall. We can go to the next one. So I use really professional supplies. I love Behr paint. It is the one that I've seen hold and extend 5-10 years plus on some of my murals that I've done. So that is the supply that I would be using the most of for this mural. Maybe a few aerosols, but I don't really do too much of that. I know that in this area, the anti-graffitiing is very important for just having longevity on this. And I use an anti-graffitiing coating that you can just take a hose to the mural if it is defaced in any way, and the graffiti coating with a rag will come right off. And then this is just a normal, I use chalk to outline. There's nothing really this is more so for me, just to understand, like, this is the list of things that I need, but I do use bare exterior paint and anti-graffiti coating at the end of every mural. So the maintenance plans goes as follow. I check on my murals probably more than every 6 to 12 months, but a minimum of every 6 to 12 months. I'm in these areas all the time. So I'm always constantly checking to see if there are touch-ups that need to happen, or if I need to jump in and again fix any defacing or any fading, anything like that. So there is a routine maintenance check that I like to do just in general. All of these murals have my name on them, so that means a lot to me, and I like to take pride in keeping them beautiful for the community as well. So although it's a minimum 6 to 12 months, it's usually a little bit more than that. Whenever I see any tarnish, graffiti, I take care of it right away. This is the building again that was recently approved from the street view. Same one for the John Lewis mural. This is a letter of permission from Sarah, who actually owns the building. And we also have a letter of support from Ginny Spencer, the councilwoman in the board. And here's the mural mock-up design. This is the one that is the welcome backdrop. This is welcome in every language that PGH serves the community. There's Swahili there, Arabic, French. I believe there's so many there that I can't even name. But you can see the silhouettes are showing just a diverse group of people, a welcoming environment, and also kind of serves as a backdrop where people can take pictures and just find pride in this and feel welcome into the building. And honestly, into the community. This is what it would look like on the wall. That white block that you see right there, I was informed that there would be a window going in this area. So I created the mural to kind of wrap around that, which shouldn't be a problem for the design at all. And then the following one is the John Lewis mural that will be facing their community garden. And we all know this quote, and I think it really gives people pride and something to fight for. And I think this will be perfect for this community. Say, be hopeful, be optimistic. You can go to the next one. And that is what that would look like on this side of the building. And then the next slide just shows basically my implementation right now. I'm currently on the second phase, where once approved, I just go into the painting phase and just make sure that everything is aligned properly, that I am representing the mural and the community in the best way possible. Do some inspections on the wall. I'm not sure between now and when the mural starts if anything happens, but if there were any issues, then taking care of those first, prepping the wall properly, and then implementing the mural designs. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tina. And I guess a little housekeeping. It looks like we did have Ms. Flaherty and Ms. Marinucci have shown up. So I guess Margaret, if you're fine with handing the chair responsibilities back to Nia if she's ready.
Absolutely.
We just make that switch now. And we do have quorum at this point. So if anyone would like to make a motion, they can do so, or discussion as well. So I will leave it to you guys.
Nia, are you ready to resume?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yep. Thank you guys. Thank you to the presenter. I caught most of it, I think, and I did review it beforehand, and I have no comment. It looks great.
My only question was about the anti-graffiti product. Has it ever had any negative effect on the masonry, to your knowledge?
No, they don't. They're made for mural projects on all materials. So there are some specific to masonry and brick, and those are the ones that I typically use the most because that's what my public murals are on. So there should be no issues with that, and there would be no issues with coloration on the mural as well.
Okay, great. It looks great to me as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, it does look like we have Tara Petrus, city's public art coordinator, I think, has some comments she'd like to make as well.
Thank you. I think this is beautiful. I think this is a far cry from what the building was before. Did notice a little typo. I want to make sure you catch when you go to install on this one slide. The second time struggles up there is missing the R. So just make sure you catch that. I think the messaging here is beautiful. I think the color scheme is vibrant, very appropriate for this building. And I do want to notate that we got a letter of support also from Councilwoman Spencer, whose ward this building is in. And I just want to commend the artist and commend the building owner for this project. And I would hope that this does get a recommendation for a certificate of appropriateness. Thank you.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion, recommend for a certificate of appropriateness as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, not hearing any other comments, move forward with the roll call. Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Flaherty,
Yes.
Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Trevisano,
Yes.
and Ms. Marinucci.
Yes.
All right, Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we will be in touch.
Thank you all.
Since it's public art, it'll have to go to the Landmarks Commission. We'll be in touch about scheduling and next steps and everything. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have case HOC 25-39 at 2074 West 25th Street for window coverage, which is considered additional signage by code. This was previous case 25-38, which I guess you guys saw last meeting, or no, a couple meetings ago in July. I was not here for that meeting, but I do have the notes for it if anyone has any questions during the discussion period and would like me to kind of remind them of what was discussed then. But it looks like we have Michaela and Taylor here to, if you guys just want to walk us through your proposal.
Hi, my name is Michaela Philo. Hannah or Taylor Hannah is not going to be on today. They just gave me a call about an hour before those. Apparently she's sick. I just want to let you guys know I am in a coffee shop. My Wi-Fi went out at my apartment. So any background sound, I'm so sorry. I'm trying my best to speak loudly for you guys. So I am the owner of 216 Legree, which is a Legree fitness studio on West 25th Street. And we are trying to get approval for window coverage on my windows. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide where the map is, I can kind of give an explanation of where we're located at. So there we are right on West 25th. This area has a lot of traffic in it. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of homeless people on this street, which we all know. So my biggest concern for the studio was getting coverage on the windows to make sure that my clients have a lot of privacy and they feel comfortable. Most people that are coming into my studio are in sports bras, smaller, say so outfits, workout outfits. My biggest concern is that they feel comfortable when they're in my studio, and I wanted coverage over that. So as you can see, this location, if it gets a little bit further down, it does just get a little bit more unsafe and there's a lot of crime. You want to go ahead and go to the next slide. You can see right here, I'm right in between Exhibition and Citizens. Exhibition right next to me, they actually have gates and a security guard standing outside of their building. They've even came over to me and pretty much expressed that I need to have cameras and full security systems. Actually, just last week, I had someone break into the unit right next to us. So it's a very common thing for crime in this area. Break-ins. I'm a young woman in my area as well too. So for me, it is just a concern to have a lot of safety. So I'm really stressing on just letting everyone know the location really does need as much security as possible. And that was my mindset behind getting the frosting on the windows to have as much privacy as possible. You want to go to the next slide. Thank you. There is my location circled. So right next to me, you can see there's a tree that covers the location, but that was actually broken into this past week. And then Exhibition is right there next to Avo. That's where they have gates up against their front building. Where it's circled, those are the only 3 windows that I have frosting on top of. And what I'm trying to get approval for is just putting some stickers up on my windows, some logos. I'm trying to get attention to my studio for my clients, but I have already been approved for a blade sign, but the stickers I do need extra approval for in addition with this frosting that I have on the windows. So again, if you were to walk by, if there was a homeless person to walk by or anything, they would right there be able to look and kind of see the women or men that are working out in my studio, which can just be very uncomfortable for anyone, you know, that knows that works out. They kind of want to be in privacy. You want to go ahead and go to the next slide. That's just across the street. I do have the intro building. As you can see, there's privacy on every single window. They went with like a glass look. Mine was more the frosting. That was just personal preference, but every single unit, as you can see, is covered with something. And I'm assuming that they must have went through some type of permit to get this. But again, I kind of got the idea when I looked across the street, saw all of the coverage that they had. You cannot see into any of those locations at all. I just did not want to go with glass, just so I could have more personal and natural light into my building. The frosting was the way to go. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is kind of just touching on, again, everything that I said. I don't have a huge space. So the blade was kind of just something that we thought would look more aesthetically pleasing for the studio, and it has already been approved. But again, you can see that the people before me must have had stickers. I want to do pretty much a very similar thing to that. Stickers that have logos on it. But they were an art studio before me, I believe. This is, I think, 2 years ago that they were there. I think they kind of wanted you to be able to see in with their art, where again, my coverage, if you go, I believe, to the next slide, it will show you what kind of frosting. Yes, so here we kind of have the frosting that I want to get approved for. It's pretty perfect to keep natural light into my studio, but from the outside on the left side photo, you can see that you cannot see in. And I really, really want everyone in my community and at my studio to just feel super comfortable when they're there. Anyone that has ever done Pilates or yoga or anything of that similar exercise, you're kind of in these weird positions and stuff all the time. So I will be having machines that are pretty much right up to that window that I really want to make sure that they are covered. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, that is the frosting that I have. There's just showing the measurements and being more specific of what I want and what I would really appreciate getting approved. You can go ahead and go to next slide. Same thing, that's from inside, outside, showing the difference of what I would like covered. Still gives some natural light, just small frosting. And then if you go ahead and go to the next slide, that is the logos that I want to get. It's pretty minimal, but I think if you're walking across the street and I have the frosting up, you see the logos, you can still get an idea of what my studio is. It gives kind of like a short summary of the exercise that I'm offering, which is Legree, gives my studio logo, and it gives still that aesthetically pleasing look. I think it kind of matches the vibe of what else is on the street by all the glass look. across the street, and then everything else I have on my street too with the logos and everything. And especially West 25th, they have a lot of art and characteristic down there, and I don't want to take away necessarily from the building itself. So we thought kind of going with the frosting and the logos and a small blade would keep all of that to the city. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. This is pretty much just including everything I talked about. My biggest concern, again, overall, is just the comfortability of my clients and just really making a big stress to the traffic that's in that area. And I really would like to bring something positive to this street. I've actually worked on this street at Town Hall as a server for 4 years, so I've been around it. I've seen it. I've seen cars get broken into, seen places get harassed, and I really just want to bring something positive to the street and community because it's been a part of my life for a while, and I love what I'm doing, and I really want to have a safe, positive studio there. So that's everything for my presentation, and thank you everyone so much for listening. Any comments or questions, please let me know.
Thanks, Michaela. Dan, can you just clarify is this just because it's a pedestrian retail overlay that we have to consider it needs a variance for the amount of frosting?
Yeah, so in this slide, you can see the allowable amount of frosting
Mhm.
under or window coverage under the sign code. And they're proposing a bit more than that. In addition, these sort of vinyl decals on there as well. The text is considered signage, but essentially this is all considered signage under the sign code. So, so there, if it needs a variance, it'll have to go to the Landmarks Commission. So, we'd look to you guys whether you want to recommend issuance of the certificate of appropriateness, and also if you would like to recommend varying the sign code to allow this, as it's not, allowable under the code.
Thank you, Dan.
Dan, would this still go to BZA? I mean, we can't, landmarks can issue a variance for the sign code?
Correct, yes. We can issue a variance for, yes, chapter 350 or section 350. So if it's a sign code variance, Landmarks Commission can grant it. If it needs other variances, like if it's an encroachment permit, that kind of thing, we can't issue those ourselves. But this would not need to go to BZA if the Landmarks Commission grants the variance.
Okay, so sign code, we're good. Landmarks can variance.
Correct.
I'm just looking at the Secretary for Interior standards for rehabilitation, and just looking through each one, I think generally none of these are actually making a physical change to any of the materials or architectural features. Since it's vinyl, it's removable, so it's not permanent. I don't think there's necessarily any of the factors that weigh against this. I think it's just like the PRO. I think the point of it is to allow for people at street level to look into the building, but seems like some flexibility here is deeply needed. So I think just from the standards of rehabilitation, I don't see a reason not to approve this, but it feels more like a PRO thing. But those are my comments. Thanks.
Dan, I have what's probably another logistical question. If there were to be another tenant in this space at some point, would the vinyl be grandfathered in? I understand the need for this use. I just don't want a habit of these windows being consistently covered, because it does obviously impact the experience of the street traffic. So if it's just for this use, then that's fine. But if it were to be a perpetual use, I think that's a bit of a concern.
Yeah, yes, understood. And since it's being considered signage, it would not be grandfathered in under future tenants. So they would have to come for their own signage package which could include a proposal to frost the glass or keep the frosted glass there, but it would be once again, up for discussion at that point, since it would be a new signage package if we consider this all as one signage package.
Thank you.
Michaela, can you clarify the top transom, like the part that looks a little gridded? Are you proposing any changes to that?
No, nothing there at all. The blade
Okay.
will be right on like those bricks or above
Yes,
it.
I remember.
Yeah. And then since you guys are kind of talking about like what is normally allowed versus what I'm trying to do, the reason I am trying to do all the way down to the bottom of the window is because my machines sit on the floor. So their body parts could be shown, from
Well.
floor level all the way up. And that is why I went as low as I did. Just so
Yeah.
you guys are aware.
Thanks for clarifying. That makes
Yeah.
sense to me. I can very much understand and appreciate the need for the privacy film. I think Whitney had a good question, so maybe, I don't know, Dan, is it something we could just, I don't know if you work that into the approval, that it's for this specific business and not for future use?
I think you guys could work that into a recommendation if you want to recommend issuance of a certificate of appropriateness and granting of variances to the signage code to allow the frosted glass, with the understanding that it would, that it's for this current use and doesn't extend to future uses of the space.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, well, I will make a motion to approve as presented with the condition that it not be extended to future uses.
I'll second.
All right, hearing no other discussion. Ms. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Flaherty,
Yes.
Ms. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Trevisano,
Yes.
and Ms. Marinucci.
Yes.
All right, Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. My office will be in touch with next steps.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Last but not least today, we do have, this is a schematic review for it's two separate case numbers, but we're going to be looking at them together. It's the demolition of 4242 Lorraine Avenue, the former McCaffrey Health Center. And then case HOC 25-41 is for new construction at the same site at 4242 Lorraine Avenue. So we have Michael from Penrose here. I'm not sure if there's anyone else or from the development team. But if you guys want to just, introduce yourselves, and I'm happy to go through your presentation if you just want to let me know and you want me to change slides.
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as a point of business, I have to recuse from this project.
Understood.
I'll be turning off my video while listen.
Wait, Nia, do I also have to recuse?
I think you do.
Okay.
Although, I don't know.
I would recommend
it's
any board
do we-
members.
Yeah, I think
from Ohio
okay.
State,
OCI
probably
is a
should
partner on
recuse.
this that we need to recuse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was because it was schematic or not, but that's fine. I went to the meeting and got my feedback in there.
Okay, thanks. So Whitney and I are recusing. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. That's
All right, awesome. Well, I'll go ahead and kick us off or introduce the team. I'm Katie Gillette with City Architecture. Michael and Will from Penrose are on the call as well. Ben Trimble from Ohio City Inc. are on. And I'm going to sort of give a little bit of background context and then kick this over to my colleague, Casey Poe, to walk through the design proposal. So if you can go to the next slide, just a quick bit of background on this project and development. As you may well know, the city of Cleveland last fall issued an RFP for the redevelopment of the McCafferty Health Center site. The building is largely underutilized. The services there are winding down or being relocated elsewhere. And this is a perfect location to provide affordable housing in Ohio City, in alignment with the Cleveland 2030 Housing Equity Plan and Ohio City Inc.'s strategic plan as well. So definitely serving a community need, and complementing a lot of the growth between residential, commercial, and transit development in Ohio City. The site itself is a little over an acre. Part of the front right-of-way will be dedicated back to the city of Cleveland to support the future Lorraine Midway. And then again, some stats and details on the building that you can see just kind of captured on the slide here. A little bit more than 70,000 square feet, 4-story building. It will be serving seniors, and that was sort of a determination that we made early on in the project and some of our early engagement meetings with the community. A portion of the site, or I should say the building, will be for a nonprofit tenant, probably Ohio City Inc. And so that's sort of in motion, really exciting to again kind of further complement and really transform this site. And we will be providing on-site parking, 43 spaces that will serve residents, management, and the nonprofit. And we believe that that will sufficiently serve the site well. Next slide, please. So in terms of just a quick capture of where we are, again, I mentioned this started last fall with the RFP and the city ultimately selecting the Penrose and Ohio City Inc. team to develop the site. Community engagement has been really paramount and critical to this. So we started some community meetings, listening sessions early and often to help position us, first of all, for a great development, but also for financial, for funding. So the project is receiving low-income housing tax credits from OFA. We were really excited about that. They are very competitive. So it's just fantastic to see the state recognize this as a great opportunity. And we're working hard right now, again, to move this project forward. We have our final application that is due back to OFA later this month. And we hope to start construction next year. And so this is sort of our first round of schematic reviews, and we plan to come back here later in the fall with our final approvals. See you next slide, please. Again, we're at the corner of Lorraine and West 44th on the northeast corner or area of that intersection. Next slide. And here's an aerial view of what the site looks like today. And this, the health center was built in 1971, so it's a very sort of 1970s approach. The building sits back from the edge of the street, surrounded by parking, not a great sort of pedestrian experience as it stands today. Happy to talk more about the building. I think I've got some photos here of what that looks like. It's a lot of concrete. It's really not very adaptive, friendly to reuse as far as interior layout goes and all the things that come with renovating a 1970s era building. So hence the city's decision to redevelop this site. Next slide. In terms of some of the neighborhood context, these photographs show Lorraine Avenue experience. Just to those top two pictures are to the east of the site. So a lot of sort of historical buildings. Our adjacent neighbor is the sort of taller semi-industrial building. And then across the street, a nice blend of some historic, some new construction, and then a tire shop that is directly across from the street, from the site. Next slide, please. To the west of the site, again, I think you all are probably very familiar, have a mix of varying uses and eras of development and future development that is expected on the west side of 44th. Next slide, please. And then looking at West 44th, sort of going north into the neighborhood, the scale kind of going down to more of a 1 and 2 family residential scale. The photo on the bottom right is Fulton Court. That is the alley that is at the back of our development site and adjacent to that existing parking lot of the McCafferty Health Center. Next slide, please. And just because it's always interesting, some historical maps for reference. This corner of Lorraine was, largely 1 and 2 family residential and starting to see a little bit more commercial development. But I don't think that really influences or changes our approach to how we see the redevelopment of this site coming here. So with that, you can advance to the next slide, and I'm going to hand it over to Casey.
Thank you, Katie. Casey. So just looking at our site layout, as Katie mentioned, 4-story building, 72 units. So on the ground floor of the building, kind of those 3 sections, the west end is that nonprofit office space. Kind of the middle section is more community spaces for the residents and service stuff. And then the east end is a couple resident units. With this site, we're kind of trying to balance one, just looking ahead to the possibility of the future Lorraine Midway development. So we're kind of planning in coordination with that, both in terms of the long term and the short term. So we're showing kind of the long term vision here. And just balancing kind of the permeability of the site with having spaces that are comfortable and more resident focused versus engaging sort of the street and that intersection, which will be an important intersection for the Midway. So we're showing kind of a public facing plaza there with a seat wall and some connection to, the transit stop that is there in active use, sitting the building, kind of close along the Midway with some plaza spaces for the nonprofit space, as well as a larger plaza space that kind of circle at the northwest corner of the building as more of a resident focused space. We have parking in the rear with access off of West 44th right now. That kind of big hammerhead is a turnaround for the fire access, and we kind of decided to just stay off of Fulton Court since it's so tight, and thinking through that being sort of more of a buffer area between the site and Fulton Court and those homes that are back there. And then as far as kind of the site feel, have some landscaping to define the edge of the street. We have a main entrance to the nonprofit, and the resident in the apartment building are off of Lorraine. And then also some access points in the back as well. With those, I guess you can go to the next slide. So with the landscaping, just looking at kind of some native landscaping, a mix of kind of flowering shrubs and hardy shrubs with native grasses. At that east end at the resident entry or those resident units, there are some existing trees. So we're thinking a little bit more about kind of buffering the resident space on the east end with landscaping, and then at the west end having it be a little bit more open and connected to the street. Next slide. So we will be working with an arborist, but for right now, our initial proposal is to remove 8 existing trees, but we're proposing 23 new trees and keeping 10 on site. So you go to the next slide. We have some initial amenity selections. So Katie mentioned kind of our community process. We actually just had a meeting last week, so they've seen some of this design amenities and site layout that we're showing, but just suggesting a couple simple kind of sleek warm tone amenity. It's going to have site lighting for the parking lot, at building entries, and kind of around some of those outdoor spaces. Go to the next slide. We're proposing underground detention for stormwater that will just be under the parking. We already know that we're going to need it based on the flows here. So just wanted to show kind of a diagram of that with our civil plan. Next slide. And then just for some extra context, we have the floor plan. So as Katie mentioned, we have primarily one bedroom with some studio. You can see a little bit more of that first floor layout with the nonprofit tenant at the west end, kind of common community areas in the center and those units at the east end. And then we'll see in a bit when we get into some of the exterior design that there's actually an overhang of the building at the west end. Next slide. So as far as exterior materials, looking mostly at face brick and fiber cement panels in just a few different styles and colors, with a little bit of metal siding, primarily at that, kind of looks almost like a faux mansard at the fourth floor, that kind of brick module. If you're going to go to the next slide, I'll kind of start to talk through more of how those come into play in the design concept. So this, at the top, the south elevation would be along Lorraine Avenue, and then that north elevation is the rear side of the building. So some of the, what we're trying to balance with the design is being in a historic district, drawing on some of the kind of more historic context of some of the buildings around. So looking at more brick on the Lorraine facade, but then we also had some early community feedback around having a little bit more vibrancy and color and some kind of modern feel. So we're sort of trying to balance that a little bit in the design concept. So if you go to the next slide. So this gives a sense of the scale of the building with the surrounding context. We feel that it's appropriate with 4 stories. Next slide. Okay, then we get into kind of some 3D views that I think will help give a little bit better sense of the design. So you can see some of that site design in this view, how that starts to feel, the scale, proportions of those spaces, the landscaping along the street edge, Lorraine Midway, balance with that. We have those 2 main entries off of Lorraine. And again, it's the having kind of more brick on the front, a little bit of a historic feel, using this sort of brick with a metal panel 4th floor module along the facade to kind of break up the building. I think it's almost 300 feet long, so we're just trying to kind of add some interest, play a little bit into the historic context, but then start to kind of overlay that with some warmer tone fiber cement storefront at the first floor, where we have some of those nonprofit spaces and community spaces. And then that starts to, as you wrap around the building, get into more of those pops of colors. So if you go to the next slide. So this gives a sense of from the east end on Lorraine, looking west down the street. And you can see a little bit of some of the detailing in the brick and trim that we're proposing. If you go to the next slide. And then a sense of that sort of more vibrant, colorful rear of the building, suggesting pink for now, but that's mostly fiber cement with a brick base at the bottom, and then the pink kind of highlights some of those stairwell and the main entry in the back. And then next slide. And then again, just the ground view, pedestrian level experience on Lorraine of the building. You can see a little bit of those pops of color coming through from the rear, but again, trying to have a little bit more of that historic feel. Thank you very much for listening. We're really excited to bring affordable housing to Lorraine Avenue. We've been really grateful for the community support, excitement, and feedback that has helped shape this so far. And as I said, we just had a meeting last week, so I have more feedback to look through, but it's been incredibly valuable to shaping a project that we think will be an asset to the community and is going to be an enhancement to the experience along Lorraine. So thank you.
All right, it occurred to me that when Nia recused herself, we lost a chair. So Margaret, would you mind stepping back into to the chair role again?
Sure.
And then I guess I also did just want to note from staff comment. Landmark's staff has been involved in the RFQ and this whole process for this site kind of from the beginning. So we've been involved with this project, and I think it's turning out nicely, but I will leave it to you guys to provide your comments today.
All right, thanks, Dan. I'm going to open it up to the committee for comments.
Just a quick first question is, was there something in the RFQ or zoning that limits this to 4 floors?
I will say that the overall scale height was largely influenced by funding. And so finding a sweet spot that made this really fundable for a MOFA. So, and also balancing construction costs, because we did consider going taller, but that does sort of change the construction type and approach if we were to go to, say, 5 stories.
And I guess just from the RFQ and Landmarks kind of was pushing for something not too much taller. You know what I mean? Like we were stressing the context of the neighborhood and the rest of Lorraine. So yeah, I think we had recommended 4, maybe 5, but you know, no taller than that. That's what we had pushed.
Yeah, just no, affordable units are so important and so hard to find space for in Ohio City. I think the site plan, and it's just a great project. I mean, there's not too many comments. I will be interested to see how the kind of fun color part turns out in the final design choices. It's just like stylistic. My comment would be on the Lorraine facade. I don't know if Dan or whoever's in control of the slides can flip to the Lorraine. Yeah, just it seems it looks like visually that you're attempting to do almost kind of like vertical I don't know, like separation, like to create modules, like vertical modules of 2 units of 2 like window wells wide in the middle here, and then like a larger 5 window unit width one on the very east end. Maybe this brick clad one to the leftmost that has an awning, maybe that's an entrance. I'm sure you quickly know, but it just kind of, just visually it looked out of place. I'm sure once it's built, no one's gonna care, but I just thought whether there was a design choice to not like continue with that kind of rhythm of having some more vertical proportion reinforcement, which is like more common of our narrower width commercial buildings on the Lorraine. Everything else, it looks great. I like that you're incorporating future infrastructure projects into it as well.
I had the same reaction about that bay, and I wondered if it did make sense to carry the metal parapet just up that one bay. I think that the scale and massing is appropriate for the location. I appreciate that. I wondered what the window, it said black windows, but it didn't list a proposed window material. What is that?
So that is, we're in the process of working through all the pricing with our contractor right now. It's likely that will be a black vinyl window. We are going to explore pricing for like a composite and a fiberglass as well. But so that the decision in terms of the exact material hasn't been made quite at this point. But there's a potential that ends up being vinyl.
I'm sure you're aware that the committee feels very strongly that a higher quality material be used, whether it's new construction or historic. And being that it's the corner property, at least on the 2 street facing sides, we would prefer to see fiberglass or aluminum clad wood.
Yeah, we will certainly take that back and see what we can do to make that happen. And understanding the priorities of that too is helpful in terms of the street facing facades.
I also, it's just, this is not Secretary of the Interior standards, but the hot pink is unsettling to me. I don't know what I guess I would look for a color connection somehow in the community or in the related buildings. And I'm not understanding that choice, but that is just a color aesthetic. So take it or leave it. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Margaret's comments on pretty much about everything. I'm curious, what was the design, what choice led you to breaking up that brick portion on this facade and then not continuing the metal up on the left portion on this image?
Are you talking about not continuing the brick to that final module?
Yeah, and you might have already said, I might have missed it. But
yeah, part of it was just we were starting to kind of overlap and break down that sort of brick section into the fiber cement. So just an idea of that starting to fade out a little bit, but can definitely also see, that metal panel vertical piece carrying across as well.
Understood. Yeah, and is that the entry there? Is that what I'm reading, like this awning at the first floor level? Yeah, I think it would help distinguish it more as like an entry. If those other ones are taller, just think it makes more sense, just a design item, not necessarily a historic thing. I also agree about the pink. What informed that decision?
I think we were trying to look a little bit at just kind of balancing the various materials and, tried a couple different colors and thought the pink could be one that might work, but it has been something that's not totally settled and final. And we also did just show some of this to the community last week, so we got some comments back there as well. So I think we're open to some other options as well. But yeah, just trying to figure out a palette that works together. So
understood. And on the other side of the building, I don't really have many comments on the use of it, but on the street facing side, you know how you have it on the underside? Can you go back to the previous image? At the left of this image, you kind of have it at the underside of that, and I understand design wise, you kind of want to wrap that edge, but at least on the street side, that vibrant color doesn't really feel like it feels a little bit out of place to me. I think it's a nice hint on the awnings. I see how you could have it on the underside there, but for that whole cantilever portion, I would either suggest using a more muted color or that's more appropriate to the district, or just transition it at the back. But those are my comments. Okay. Otherwise, I think the scale and everything makes sense for the neighborhood. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So echoing the other committee members, I agree with the scale. The site planning's nice, especially as you hold it back from 44th and Lorraine. My main comment was also the color. Yeah, the rest of the building is very, let's say, kind of natural earth tone. So having vibrancy there, I think, is fine, and it's kind of logical where you have it wrapping under the canopy through the back of the building, but maybe something that's kind of in the color family of what's there, or something pulling from site materials. That's it.
I think for colors, I've seen other projects in this committee that had success using jewel tones. So like greens or blues. So maybe there's a fun jewel tone color that complements really well with natural tones as well.
I also think about Victorian pinks that have a lot more brown in them so that there's the earth tone relationship there that may work. Any other committee comments?
I just had just for quick feedback, since we are doing this as two separate cases, the demo and the new construction, does anyone have any thoughts on the demolition? Any feedback on that for the team, or is everyone completely comfortable with that aspect of it?
Can you provide us, I was not able to make the site visit. Was there anything noted during the walkthrough?
No,
kind of
nothing. It's inside. It's kind of what you would expect. You know, kind of old offices and medical offices. There's some interesting glazed, mossy green brick with a high fire glaze on it in the hallways. That's, you know, very of its period. Could be green, could be orange. This one's green, but it's what you'd expect in this era of sort of utilitarian building.
Well, it definitely seems appropriate to replace this building at this point. From my perspective, I don't see it as a loss to the historic district.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Yeah, just one of them. I'm curious. I should look it up too. I don't. You know, we don't do contributing versus non-contributing for our local historic districts, but I'm wondering if the National Register District lists this as non-contributing.
I would assume so.
Does, since
Yeah.
it's got to be outside the period of significance, but we'll find that information when you guys are reviewing this for final.
So it seems like that's the extent of our feedback.
I guess Penrose City Art Team, do you guys feel like you've gotten sufficient feedback to kind of move on to the next steps? I think, you know, we'll have you come before the Landmarks Commission and get feedback from them, and then make revisions based on everything you've heard from everyone.
Yes, I think we've got some really great feedback out of this conversation.
Yeah, I just want to take just a quick second just to thank everyone so far. I think we've been pleasantly surprised just by the positive support and momentum that this project has gotten. As you saw from the timeline, winning the RFP, submitting a tax credit award in February, and then getting an award in May. That timeline is very quick and rarely happens in that short of sequence. So we're highly motivated to continue to push, and this feedback is very well received and appreciated. So yeah, I just appreciate everyone's time, and we'll be back again.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Madam Chair, that is all we have on our agenda for today. So if you'd like to adjourn the meeting, our next meeting is September 18th, assuming we get some projects.
All right. Well, this closes the September 4th meeting of the Ohio City Design Review Board.
Thank you all.
Thanks all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
You too.